Guys, welcome back to Sunrise on the Hill, the place where people meet with politics. And we are just a month and a half away from the beginning of the midterm primaries. Yeehaw.
Yeah, it really seems like this year's elections are coming thick and fast. And it's going to be a dogfight. You've got the GOP trying to hold their majorities in the House and in the Senate. How do they do that? Well, we're not going to answer that question, but we are going to ask somebody who might know a few things about strategy, and that is GOP strategist Jeff Burton. Jeff, thank you so much for being here in person.
Hi.
So good to see you. How prepared do you think the GOP is in terms of getting its message out there to the voters ahead of primary season and ultimately the midterms in November?
They're very prepared. In 2025, what you saw, that was the legislative year. You see the big bill, the tax bill, other legislative priorities that both President Trump and Republicans in Congress passed. And as the calendar year turns, that's when politics become primed for everybody. As you said, a month and a half from the first primaries, and Republicans have been planning for this. The American people in April will receive the largest tax cut they've ever received in history because of the tax bill. And it's these policies that are going to start being implemented by Treasury Department, and you're going to see some benefits from the tariffs. You're going to see inflation going down. And it all comes down to the economy. Again, inflation has been going down, or at least steady. Immigration is under control, so that's not as great of a message for the GOP, but still a message. There's still work that needs to be done there, and that's one of the reasons Donald Trump won. But in the end, it's going to be about the economy and selling that message, and this is when Republicans will start doing that.
Well, let me ask you, because if Republicans have been good at anything, it has been messaging. I mean, like masterful over the years. Tick, 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 almost every single time. But not so this past year when it came to the economy. The president campaigned on it. Clearly, people don't feel it. How do they sell it?
Yeah, it's hard to communicate with the American people, and Donald Trump and his team have done a great job through the campaigns of really connecting with the American people at a different level than most politicians have, probably since Barack Obama actually on the campaign trail in 2008. But when you look at the difficulty of getting that message out and running this government, Republicans control House, Senate, Supreme Court, and the presidency, it's hard. This is a big government, and instead of taking the really quick win and saying we can do X, Y, and Z policies, they went after the long game and try to really reform our system, reform our economy so that the American people can see the benefits in the long run. And while Republicans definitely took a short-term hit in 2025 in the elections that we saw, Virginia, New Jersey, and many other local elections, we're going to see that turn around because it has always been the plan that by mid-year, the American people should feel better about the economy.
The president was in Michigan earlier this week selling the affordability message. Let's listen to it.
Under our administration, growth is exploding, productivity is soaring, investment is booming, incomes are rising, inflation is defeated, America is respected again like never before.
How difficult is it, or is it difficult at all, when you've got a candidate out there who's on the ground in their congressional district or in their state selling this message of, hey, I hear you, the pain at the grocery store is real, inflation is coming down, it's not where we want it to be, but hey, it is coming down. He talked about manufacturing in Detroit and that it's back and it's booming, but we know manufacturing has contracted the last 8 to 9 months, according to the BLS. And then there's this issue of affordability. You have the Reconciliation 2.0 bill framework unveiled yesterday, housing, healthcare, all the big issues Americans care about, but yet you have the president saying affordability is a made-up word. From a strategy standpoint, how difficult is it being a candidate when the president sometimes undercuts that message of, I feel your pain?
I think it's not easy sometimes, but we've seen it, and I think we're used to it for the last 12 years.
Being those interpreters of what the president is trying
yes,
to say.
Exactly. And, our candidates, they're well primed. The congressional committees do a really good job. Our members of Congress are primed by our leadership and have that messaging and understand. And the communication with this administration, not just among Republicans, but a lot of more moderate Democrats, as far as the communication back and forth, they want to hear from the administration staff. You've heard how many people have the president's cell phone, so he's able to get that message through. And I think, while not easy, I think that we're kind of used to it and able to stick to that one message. And in these midterms, it's always the minority's job to nationalize the election, and it's the majority's job to try to localize the election. And that's where these local issues like manufacturing in Detroit and other places are going to come in.
So clearly the issue is on domestic issues, to be sure. But we've had a lot of foreign interventions. There are some people on the right that have a big problem. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene famously among them. Of course, she's no longer in Congress. But, you know, there are Republicans, Rand Paul, who, what are we doing here? Yeah. So does that hurt you with the polls? And I suppose the larger question is, you know, what are we doing here?
That's part of the long game. You look at Iran, China, Russia, they're colluding against us. That's obvious. I don't know anybody who doesn't think that they are. Iranian kamikaze drones are in Kiev every night trying to bomb apartment buildings. Okay, and China is coordinating. They're spending that. Our enemies are real. You look at what's happening in Israel and Iran. You look at Venezuela. This all comes back home because we are a global economy, whether people like it or not. And we can't just change our system. And you look at tariffs. That's international. You look at Ukraine. How much money have we sent to Ukraine? But that's a fight for Europe. That's a fight that could begin. I have friends over there, former chiefs of staff on the Hill in Ukraine, who went over there to help right at the start of the war, and they say this is the start of World War III if we don't get this right. And so it's serious business, this global political scene, and it's hard to sell to the American people, but we're hopeful that some of these conflicts get resolved, and that the American people start seeing in the pocketbook. Because,
Greenland?
like I said, Greenland, yes. There's a lot going on there, and sometimes it's hard to see whether there's smoke or mirrors. The president has been brilliant at deceiving national Democrats and saying, "Oh, look over here at this shiny object," right. While we're doing all this stuff over here and distracting. It's hard to know what is what, but Greenland isn't just about the minerals; it's about security too. You look at coming through, from China, from Russia. There's a whole big gap there that's not protected, that a submarine could be on our eastern seaboard. Nobody's talking about that, but a nuclear sub could be there because there's Denmark and then nothing if we don't have Greenland. So that's about security as well.
Just a quick point on that is all of the experts are saying where the Russian subs are and the Chinese sub, it's off the Bering Strait. So, it's kind of the other side.
Yeah,
but I hear your point. I hear you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got about 30 seconds left. I want to talk about some polling on all three issues that you just brought up. On the economy, YouGov poll out conducted from January 9th to 12th show that 35% of folks rate the economy as poor. 50% say the economy is getting worse. On foreign intervention and foreign policy, the president's disapproval rating of the situation in Venezuela sits at 57%, 61% disapproval overall of his foreign policy. And then on the Minnesota shooting by that ICE agent, 53% of folks say that it was justified. 46% of folks believe that ICE should be abolished. I bring all of that in because the president has been involved in every single one of those issues. So my question is this. Should Republicans run away from Donald Trump in the midterms, or should they embrace him and the policy decisions that he has been making?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
to both of that.
Okay.
Especially in congressional races, and we can go back to the presidential race. You look at these national polls that showed it tied. Kamala Harris possibly winning up 2 or 3 points. Donald Trump won the national vote, the popular vote, by 2 points and swept every swing state. It was a blowout that we haven't seen since 2008 with Obama. And you can't look at a national poll. It goes back to that local issue. It goes back to the 13 Democrats who sit in districts that Donald Trump won. Those numbers are a lot different when you're looking at a 50-50 district, because when you look at the national poll, you're looking at Chicago, L.A. I mean, Hillary Clinton in 2016, her margin of victory was California. Like nationwide, like in the popular vote in 2016, and it was just California, and most of it was LA County and San Francisco. And so that's what that poll is that you just read. So what we do as the party is we look at the targeted districts, the 30 to 50 districts that Republicans, Democrats pretty much both agree on, and look at where are the independents there. The Republicans can't win out without the base, and Donald Trump is the base. So we have to do that, but we also have to appeal to independents. And on an earlier segment, you mentioned Susan Collins and the president going against him. I'll actually argue that that's a good thing for her because she's showing her independence. She's not worried about worried about a primary, and she's going to stand up to the president as she always has. It's who she is. She's tough as nails, and the Maine people want that.
Right. Jeff Burton, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back after the break. Stay with us.